Welcome to Intentional Healings TV, and I am Jodi Friedman, your hostess with the mostest. And I wanted to welcome my wonderful guests today. We have Kelly Kaspar and Paul Kaspar.
Hi, everybody.
And do you like the Fu Manchu? I just got to see Paul's picture of when he was in the 70s, in the 1970s, not that you're 70.
Not quite.
With the dark hair, but he had the same beard. It was so adorable. Crazy 70s hair.
With the full sideburns and everything.
Right? So I was going to call today's session West meets East, but it's really clinical meets woo. You can guess which one is which, but maybe they trade
a little bit.
Do you trade titles every once in a while?
Occasionally.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I thought it would be so interesting to meet with these two wonderful people that I was introduced by Scott Thompson and find out how does a couple that comes from different backgrounds, and I know you called it a fusion of modalities, how do you work together as a family? So let me start with you, Kelly. Can you answer that?
What we do is we really work to respect each other's beliefs, methodologies, and we really work together beautifully when it's flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain things that he's way better at.
You leave it to him.
I'll leave it to him. All right, tell people to go see him. There are certain things I'm better at, and he tells them to come see me. And so it's more about finding that balance and truly respecting each other.
Absolutely, that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. So for the audience, you have a family practice, right?
I have a family practice. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and doing that means I can pretty much do anything that a standard primary care provider can do. I have also expanded somewhat into doing addiction care, both alcohol and drugs, and I have added a number of things, including aqua stretch. Scott's in the middle of teaching me Reiki, things that I never would have considered to be part of a standard clinical practice. Kelly introduced me to Ho'oponopono, which, when she first started doing that, I thought was a little nutty, but then as I really started using it with people, it's a really powerful tool.
It really is. It's one of my favorite tools, and it's so simple to use. It's four simple phrases, and so powerful. Why don't you tell the audience what it is for those who don't know it? If you don't know it, I know it.
I know it. I couldn't remember it, so I made business cards. So we passed them out by the thousands.
I know you know it. I'm just kidding.
So there are different, you see it in different orders. The version that we use is, I tell people, put your right hand over your heart. I give them the card, and I say, follow after me and say it out loud because you're speaking to yourself. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I actually kind of make people do that 3 different times before I let them off the hook, if you will. Because some people that have some serious emotional things going on that they don't want to talk about, they have never considered forgiving themselves. And I don't need to know what it is that they're fighting. I just need to tell them, okay, you can get past this.
Absolutely, and that's a beautiful way. That's different than the way I learned it, but I like your version better. So now you've been talking about East, but we know that you're the allopathic guy. So you said trauma. Well, I know you didn't say it, but it's on my list. Trauma, addiction, family practice as a nurse, so you can prescribe medication to people.
As a family nurse practitioner, I'm a nurse practitioner. That gives me the authority in Nevada. We are autonomous practice. There's no physician involved in the practice at all. Mm-hmm. I can write, pretty much. That's a whole nother story. I can any medication that it would fall under family practice, I can write. I don't do chemotherapeutics because I'm not an oncologist. And most physicians who are not oncologists wouldn't write chemotherapeutics. So anything within my general scope of practice, anywhere from your diuretic up to if Suboxone happens to be something that you're in need of, I can do that. I prefer to do it short term, but I can do that. So I can write pretty much everything, all the scheduled drugs as well. And, if you need sutures, I can do that. I tend not to do women's health because I have, the way our office is and it's small enough, I don't have a chaperone in there, and you don't do things like that without an appropriate chaperone. So the office, I don't have that. It just doesn't mean I can't do it. It's just that I choose not to in this
Or
one.
you'd have to pull Kelly out from what she's doing and bring her in as your witness.
Yeah, but Kelly doesn't really want to be in those settings. That's not what she was trained for, and it's not, it's just not the right setting for that. I don't do children anymore, and again, because the office is really not set up for children. And I do a lot of nutrition. I recommend vitamins to people, and I've had some of my people that have addiction issues, when I give them the vitamins, their whole outlook changes. Their cravings decrease. It's a whole different way of doing things. So
That's great.
I really have fused between what Kelly has shown me with the Aquastretch, with the medical side, and I'm kind of one of those people that every day I get 4 or 5 of those news feeds saying, hey, here's what's going on in the healthcare world, and I read them.
That's awesome.
So I keep up on some of the latest stuff. I'm also a big proponent of vitamin D, and sleep apnea is one of my personal pay attention to things. I happen to have it, and I find it in places that most people don't. I also find it, many of the people that I have that have started with prescription medications for sleep don't really have a need for prescription medications for sleep. They have a need to breathe while they're sleeping. And
Are most of your patients men with that, or do you have just as many women?
it's more men, just because we tend to have the fatter necks and stuff like that. But I have had women, your guys' size, that have a need for a CPAP machine because it's a central apnea, and it is.
So you also save marriages then, right?
Oh,
Could you say
absolutely.
that is one of your titles?
Yeah, I do. I actually, people, and so many of the guys will say, well, some of them that are single, or like, well, I want to have a woman in bed with me, and I got this machine. And the answer is, if you want them to stay in bed with you without the sound of a chainsaw in their ear,
Right.
you need to be on the CPAP. I can't tell you the number of people that it makes a big difference
Yeah,
for.
maybe one day they'll make it into a little wristband or something that it just goes all the way out.
Actually, there is a company that is in the process of creating one that literally just fits in your nose. It's still in development.
great.
There are some knockoffs that you see on Facebook once in a while. Those are dangerous. The original ones have not been created yet. They haven't gone through FDA approval. But the thing is about this big and just plugs in your nose.
Well, what a healthy way to help the world is through sleep apnea. I
Sleep
think
is vital.
everybody needs sleep.
Nutrients are vital.
So the name of your company is Silver Arc APN. I just wanted to introduce you to the world. And and then Kelly, yours is called Knots Unwound.
Correct.
Because you're a licensed massage therapist and so much more. So why don't you give a little description of the things that you do that you spend your time with, the things that you love.
Okay. So by license, I'm a massage therapist. By passion and calling, one of the things that I really resonate with is craniosacral therapy. It's kind of a misnomer because what we're actually doing is working fascia. So I'm gonna geek out on you right now, so
Please
feel
do.
free. So sports has never been anything I've been a big fan of, ever. for whatever reason, the Golden Knights, I'm now a fan.
Oh,
and
good.
this happened in May.
I'm so glad.
Right? This happened in May.
You have no idea the transformation.
And it was quite
I think most of Las Vegas has had that
right,
happen.
Right. But, yeah. So one of my guys that I give homework to regularly, when he found out that I was, oh my God, following a sports team, and he's like, you need to learn something, right? I'm like, oh, okay. So he made me figure out what icing is. He told me, I looked at him like I had no idea what he just said. Paul had to tell me twice. He had to pull out a rink and go, okay, this is what we're doing. So what I learned is icing. Okay? So in hockey, the definition of icing is that if the team gets tired, is what I was told, and they shoot the puck towards their home net and it crosses the blue center line and the red line near the net and it's not controlled, that's called icing. Okay? So
Does that mean there's lots of ice flying?
I don't know. I have no idea where they got the name. But I was watching Game 3 of the finals. And what I saw was the Knights up in the Caps territory, and everybody was doing, they were all just there, right? They were circling and they were shooting and nothing was happening. And then somebody would shoot the puck towards Fleury and then they'd be doing the face-off thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay. So the way it works in my world is that it frequently cooks in my brain overnight, and Paul never knows what I'm going to say first thing in the morning. So after Game 3, what came out of my mouth first thing in the morning was, I know what icing is. He's like, okay. And when organisms get into a repetitive motion, and we see this a lot in the pool when we're working with people and we're releasing the adhesions and we're releasing the restrictions and bringing greater flow into their bodies, what happens in the water is you start seeing repetitive motions. Okay?
Okay.
So, icing in Kellyland is that repetitive motion needs to be broken up. It happens one of two ways. You can either block it, or you can send it into the fullest range of its motion. So icing is actually
so beautiful. Because I get what you're talking about since I've
Right?
had Aqua Stretch.
Right?
Yes. I get it.
And you're a Knights fan, and right? And so when that tissue has a restriction and we enhance that motion and send it into that furthest range of motion, we're actually doing what hockey calls icing and releasing.
And this
the
is your
repetitive
passion.
motion.
Your passion is hockey. I
She
love
would-
it.
Yeah, it's,
My passion is releasing restrictions and adhesions and bringing greater flow to bodies.
That's an awesome way to do it too, Kelly, especially in the water because it's such free movement.
Yeah.
And we know that the emotions get held in the fascia for years and years, and we don't understand why we get the restrictions in the body. So you're good at, and you do that. Do you do that at the multi-center in Green Valley, or where
It's
do you
the
do it?
Henderson.
We do it at
Aquatic Center.
Henderson Aquatic Center, and the same thing kind of happens on the table, and the emotions can come up more on the table. What I know
Yes.
about fascia is that restrictions happen from one of 6 things: mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, financial, or chemical reasons. And so I've worked with women who had epidurals 20, 30, 40 years ago, and when we release that adhesion, they have that experience of that drug in their system or leaving their system again, right?
Is yours called myofascial release, or is yours?
Craniosacral therapy.
Oh, that's craniosacral for you. Okay, because I've had both done, but I didn't know what the difference was.
The difference is names and how to do it.
And icing.
And icing! It's icing! It's icing! I've been so excited.
Jump in there, Paul.
well, no, she came up with that, and I sat there and I just looked at her with my mouth hanging open because it was absolutely right. And when she said it, I was like, yeah, that's the a perfect translation from sports into Kellyland, and like, wow.
Well, you know, this is kind of like what we were just talking about before we came into the studio today, is that really what we lovingly call woo really is a science. It's just that mainstream human beings, if they don't have a lot of experience, it looks like like woo-woo. But
Right.
what it really is, if you go into quantum physics and metaphysics, it comes down to science and mathematics, sacred geometry.
Right. And a
I've heard
couple
that
of
rumor.
things.
It's all connected.
I've heard that once or twice.
So one of the reasons that when Scott came into the office and said he wanted to, see about doing Reiki in the office, I, as the clinical person, did not have any issue with it, because there have been a number of scientific studies of Reiki practitioners where they put thermistors on their hands, and when they said I'm flowing energy, the temperature in the hands went up. Now, a personal experience, when Kelly and I first got together, we're sitting on the couch and she puts her hand on my leg, and I was like, okay, you got to move that because it's too hot. Her hands would turn on, and it was like somebody put a flat iron on my leg.
Love that Reiki energy.
Yeah, so I had no trouble with that. The other thing, when you're talking about fascia, is just in the last few months there was a paper published in the medical literature that says that the fascia is actually an organ, and it's an endocrine,
Biggest organ in the body.
biggest organ in the body. It's also a endocrine transit system, so a lot of the hormones and stuff get shifted. So when people say they have an emotional release because we pop this loose, there's actually scientific basis for it.
I've had huge releases I've had craniosacral, but the reason I was confused with it is because when my Reiki master did this on me, she always mostly did it here in the neck. So when I've had myofascial release, that was more like the entire body weaving and moving and releasing everything. So that's why I was a little confused with the
They
terms,
have-
which one you might
They work
do.
on the same tissue. They have different ways of doing it.
John Barnes and John Upledger worked together for a brief time, and were
And that's
working on the
myofascial
fascia.
release.
No,
It's both.
they went their own way. John Barnes is PT, and his technique is myofascial. John Upledger was an osteopath, and John Upledger is credited with bringing that whole modality that now goes by 6 or 8 different names because people have put their own spins and twists on it.
Right.
But John Upledger is credited with bringing it mainstream because he was in Michigan doing studies specifically with little autistic people, and he didn't have enough doctor hands to do what he needed to do, so he started training the nurses to do what he needed to do. Then they decided that they could train the parents so that the parents could be involved in helping their little ones and feeling more empowered as a family. And at some point, both of the Johns worked together and did some things. And one of the things that came out of that is that craniosacral is kind of a misnomer because we actually start at the feet, feel the fascia, do some unwinding or regional positional tissue releases, and then we come up and release the skull. But because the
That
name
is what she did. I didn't
because-
know that was part of the craniosacral.
because it got named back in the 70s, and it was about the sacrum and the skull. And then it evolved into full body fascial work because
I see.
something at your knee can be pulling your neck out.
I know. Isn't it amazing the way the
Right.
body works like that? That's
When I
just
first
crazy.
moved into her office, I was complaining of a
And so
spasm
it's
in
kind
my
of a
neck.
misnomer.
I was complaining of a spasm in my neck, and she walks up and says, "Just a minute," and she picks up my arm, sticks her finger there, and goes, "Whack," and it was gone. I'm like, no, I know better. That doesn't work that way.
So let me ask you both. So how does it work with clients? That like somebody comes in expecting allopathic and then ends up with you later on? Like how does that work with the two of you?
Well, I will get, like, people come in with pain, and I've done so much pain recovery where I don't believe opiates have any place in this world other than short-term broken legs. Long-term opiates are dangerous, they are scary, and they don't do any good. They mess up your hormones and do all kinds of stuff. So I will not put somebody on opiates. They take them off. I don't put them on it. And those people that come in for pain, we work on what we need to. There are some other things that you can do. But I started using aqua stretch maneuvers in the office. I had a gentleman with big neck with really big pain, and I put my finger on his shoulder or his neck, and I rotated his arm, and he's like, wait a minute, I've had that pain for 10 years. It was gone.
And so I
And it
think
was-
the important part about this conversation is that
I blended and
it's-
moved it to Kelly.
it's that we're following the tissue. It's not a recipe, oh, here, stick a
Oh,
finger
no,
here
no.
and work around it. It's like, where's the
Where's the
adhesion?
problem? Yeah.
Where is the body saying, pick me? And then moving around that. It's very much not a recipe because it doesn't work the same for everybody. Because their adhesion might be here or down in their knee. And it's causing issues in their neck.
So the short
So
answer is
it's-
I look at them, I tell them what they have, and I say, if you want to feel better, Kelly or the pool or all of the above. And then I'm adding things that Kelly has already, we talked about those other methods. And they get blended, and then sometimes they'll say, nah, I don't want to do that stuff. Essential oils. First time I got exposed to essential oils, I had this horrendous cough, and I said, you can't do that. She's like, you need peppermint oil. I'm like, get out of here. Well, of course, like every wife, she slathers me all up with it because she knows what's
Don't we
better.
love the stories he
And-
tells?
We do.
And the peppermint oil did more for my lungs, to my breathing, than all the inhalers and all the stuff that I had. So it is. I work with them, and if I know what Kelly does, and I know that if it's going to work better, they need to see Kelly. And Kelly does. She gets some people that are talking about other medication things that are not in her scope, and she sends them to me.
Well, I think that Las Vegas, especially, you're probably the best kept secret because
Yeah.
the more people that should know about you and come and get, well, I don't know if it's 2 for 1. I don't know your pricing yet.
No, it's not 2 for
2 for 1. But they can definitely get all their needs met by one or both of you, it sounds like. And if one, with
And
that,
if that doesn't work, we throw Scott and then triple check.
and then you've got the Reiki master who's
That's right.
magical and
Right.
really precise in what he does. I know, and Scott is just fantastic. And I think that you really have a nice balance between the two of you. And I just want the world to know about you. I've got to come to you and try you out.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, so
You're
I can
welcome.
endorse your product. Well, I already am, because here you are. So where would people find you? Where are you located in town, and how do you take appointments? Are you online, or basically, how do people get in touch with you?
So physically, we're located at Eastern and Harmon. Our website is silverknot.us, silverknot.us.
Okay.
Appointment requests can be made online. They need to be approved.
So they
you
can
can-
type something to you, and then you respond back? Is that how it is?
Yes.
Or is it by
And-
email or something?
And Facebook is not the way to get a hold of me. Just
We don't do
saying.
healthcare on Facebook.
No,
That's
it's not the right way for you?
No, Messenger is not right either. The best way, the simplest way right now is to just call us at 702-586-5060. That's our main phone number for me. Kelly's is 702-463-7377.
77.
Lots of sevens.
Whatever.
Well,
7707.
we'll
and
put it up.
Andy will answer all the calls.
Okay.
So either way, Andy
All
will
right.
answer.
All right. Well, we'll get your contact information up at the end of the show.
Sorry about that.
No. It doesn't have to be confusing. Our Scott will take care of
Scott
that.
will
He'll
take
get
care
it.
of it.
He'll get it. He'll get your
It's
contact.
always good to have a
information.
Scott guru around.
I know. We love Scots, don't we?
We do. We do.
Well, I want to really thank you for your time. I told you it was going to go fast, and it's been such a pleasure to hear. This is just a little bit of what you do. Next time, I'd love to hear about trauma and how you take care of people, especially how you were involved with October 1 after that massive shooting. I'm sure that your business was really busy then, if not now as well. And we
Yeah.
need the next show though. We only have 40 seconds left.
So I'll just say you can look on our website and in the blogs. We have the second shift. We have the orange chairs. We have my revealer's journey, and that kind of
So you've blogged
talks
about
a
it.
lot about.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's say goodbye to, I was going to say to Facebook land, because that's the place where I land. But it's been great having you. Thank you
It's
so
been
much.
It's been our
Fabulous
pleasure.
being
Thank you
here.
very
Thank
much
you.
for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Love that. Love that. Fu Manchu. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Jodi.